Hey guys, welcome back to Ferocious Gaming. Today we are going to do a guide on Nasus, who's one of the older champions, and I find that he is also one of those champions that isn't played quite as much anymore. And so why would you choose him? The biggest reason is that he has unlimited potential with his siphoning strike skill. What this does is when you last hit a creep with your Q skill, he increases his attack damage with that skill by 3. And so over time, as you continually last hit creeps with this Q skill, you're going to be doing an insane amount of damage. Now, some of his problems include the fact that he is easily crowd controlled, you can be slowed and stunned, and if you don't farm that well, he is difficult to play. You won't be a carry, and you'll have to force yourself more into an off-tank role. In terms of masteries, I like to emphasize the defensive side, a little bit of utility. I'm going with Ghost and Ignite, mostly because Ghost is way better than Exhaust for him. You need to chase people down, and Ignite, I always like Ignite for a bit of extra damage, and it really helps with him. Now in terms of runes, you just want your standard armor penetration for the marks and the quints, and you want some mana regeneration for your early game in the seals, and the glyph of focus is for cooldown reduction. It'll help your Q and with farming later on. And so in terms of Nasus's skills, his passive is essentially a natural lifesteal. This really helps with your laning phase, or if you decide to jungle, it certainly helps with that. I really don't like to jungle just because I find you can kill a lot more in a lane. His Q siphoning strike is his bread and butter. This is what's going to add that attack damage for you continually throughout the game until it just becomes downright unstoppable. Wither is your W. It's a basic slow over time. E is an area of effect damage, which I used to harass quite a bit early on. And his ultimate is one of the best ultimates in the game. It will save you time and time again. You can just run into a team fight, pop that on, and you're good to go. And this is just to emphasize siphoning strike and the creep kills. The more creep kills you get, the more bonus attack damage on this. And you can see the numbers. As you get up to 200 creep kills, you're going to be getting 600 attack damage, and you can keep going and going. It's not going to stop. So I just want to drive home the point that you're going to want to farm a lot with Nasus. In terms of his item build, I like to go with a regrowth pendant and a health potion to start. This will allow you some good sustain in the lane early on, and it also sets you up nicely to get the Philosopher's Stone afterwards. In terms of your boots, you can either go with Mercury Treads or the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. I tend to go with the Boots of Lucidity right now, only because it really does help with farming for Q. If you're noticing that the other team has a lot of slows and stuns, I definitely recommend Mercury Treads. And after that, you want to go with Trinity Force, and later on, you really just want to decide, are you up against an attack damage team or an ability power team, and build accordingly. The last item, the last slot is entirely up to you, and I've given you why you might want to choose those last 3 items. And so now I'm just going to show you some clips of me playing Nasus and some of the techniques that I use. Right here, I'm just showing you the basic gameplay for his laning phase, just last hitting with Q as much as I can. I've got the top lane solo here, and I'm up against 2 guys, and it's not an easy lane, especially with 2 fairly strong characters, but I'm really just trying to last hit with Q. My lifesteal is definitely helping me, and sticking close to the tower, harassing with E. I don't always get those last hits here for whatever reason. I'm not sure what I was doing a couple times there, but I'm just trying to emphasize that You don't want to overextend, especially when you're in a solo lane and you really just want to focus on last hitting those creeps. I'm not really trying to harass him much. There's really no point until maybe I'm a little bit higher up. And you can see I'm just taking my time, trying to get that Q in. And right here, I'm just going to show a nice gank on Morgana. Just come up from behind, and the slow really does help. I mean, it's fairly easy. As long as you time it, I mean, he does a lot of damage, Nasus, when you can burst him down. Here I'm just going to show you that Malphite is kind of sticking around, and I know that he's pushing it, and I know I can take him if he just edges out a little bit more. And so I'm just last hitting with Q, just waiting it out. And eventually he is going to come in a little too close, and it's lights out for him. And so for this one, it's just a team fight we got going here. And I just want to emphasize the general strategy for Nasus when you're in a team fight. You pop your ultimate as soon as possible in the middle of people, and you just use everything in your arsenal. Take down the weakest characters. Anyone with low health, take them down right away. You're basically unstoppable as long as your team is at least, you know, doing semi-well. They're not going to attack you first. You can just go in and basically take over. And so I'm just going to show you once again me employing the basic strategy of Nasus in a team fight. You just want to pop your ultimate, do a bit of harass maybe with E, and just go right after their casters. Don't let them deal out any damage. And I'm not the main target here, and there's not much Ryze can do to me. I'm just going straight through their team and taking each one out one by one, and basically they just have to take it, because Nasus, when he's farmed and when he's got all his items, is just too difficult to take down, and you have to the other team has to focus on someone else. But if you farmed up your Q well, then you're also dealing out the most damage, and so you can see why Nasus is a bit of a powerhouse if you do well in the early and mid game to get to this point. And please note that his Q also works on towers and inhibitors, and so he makes an amazing pusher as well. And so just some final thoughts on Nasus. Again, I just want to emphasize building up Q. That's your #1 priority, and to get there you need to farm a lot. And while you're farming, please don't ignore your team. A lot of people do that. A lot of carries try to do that. You can't ignore team fights, because if you do, your team is going to get ganked over and over, and it doesn't matter how much you farm, you're still not, you could be the most farmed Nasus in the game, and you're still going to go down if the other 5 players are fairly well built. And you need to learn to adapt, because you're not always going to get the chance to farm, and so when that happens, you need to be willing to switch roles into a tank or an off tank. And so one thing not a lot of people know is how effective Nasus's ultimate is at taking down the Baron. And you can do this fairly early as long as you've got the area warded. You just pop the ultimate, you can tank it, and you'll be doing a lot of damage as well based on the effects of his ultimate. And your team is going to like the fact that they've got that buff early on. And also, you need to be ready to hit Wither whenever you see an enemy, especially stragglers. I mean, this is going to mean the difference between a kill and him getting away. And so the final point is to time your last hits. Siphoning Strike will reset the auto attack timer, so you can auto attack something, then hit Siphoning Strike, and it will go immediately. This should greatly help you with last hitting things. And over time, you'll get a sense of how much damage it does. Just remember, as you keep farming it, it's going to be doing more damage, so you need to plan or rather adapt accordingly to how much damage you're doing. And thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe to my channel. Look forward to more guides from me in the near future.